Yet you'll see some things, if you'll just indulge me for a few moments, in this Torah portion that's pertinent to who we are right now. And I'll make you a guarantee. Can I do that? If you will listen to me this morning, I promise you, you're going to hear some things in this Torah portion and see some things in the New Testament because you understand the old you've never understood and never seen before. Think we can make good on that guarantee? Huh? I believe Yahweh can. The title of the Torah portion is Chukat. Say that with me. Chukat. You've got to get that guttural. Say it. Chukat. And it's usually translated ordinance. It's interesting because it happens to be in the plural form here. And if you were to translate that in English, it would be ordinances. But it's specifically dealing here with one that's kind of unique. It has one of the most unique positions in rabbinical circles that any other teaching has, simply because it's shrouded in mystery. The rabbis cannot understand it, but I can share this with you. You're going to see some things that the rabbis say regarding this Torah portion that leads me to believe that they know more about this ordinance of the red heifer, Chukat, than you and I do, even though we understand who our Messiah is. Does that make sense to you? Does that chasten you, or does that challenge you? It should challenge you. If you look at it from a natural or religious perspective, it's beyond the scope of even the most devout of religious Jews, and I dare say probably beyond the rest of the vast majority of people that call themselves believers today. Christians in particular, Hebrews individuals as well. We relegate to the Old Testament, and it's ritualistic, and it has no merit for us today. That's kind of how we catalog things. And that's one of the reasons that we discount the Testament, because we don't understand it. But I believe that you can't really understand the New Testament without going back and seeing these rituals and understand their significance to us. Now, this particular ritual of the red heifer, this ordinance, has become more prominent in religious circles today than really any other subject, even though it's the most misunderstood. And because of that, the rabbis, those that are in a position leadership in the religious community in Israel proper today, are working as diligently as they can to take this ritual and make it applicable to the house of Israel. Yet they don't really understand what's happening, but they're, by sheer obedience, I believe, more than likely to be called sons of Yah than the vast majority of people that call themselves believers, because a lot of times we hear it and don't believe it, and they're not obedient to it. Does that make sense? Do you realize that you can see something in the scripture and not have to understand it to be obedient? I'll give you an example. When my children were little, I used to tell them, don't cross that road. A lot of people wouldn't understand, but I knew it takes growing in a level of maturation to understand that sometimes you just have to be obedient and understanding will come, okay? And that's what Yahweh's teaching us throughout these religious rituals and rehearsals. We're putting them into practice and we don't understand. Some of them we understand that they will be fulfilled in a future date, but yet the purpose is for a teaching tool, and it merits your attention. It literally calls out to us to do everything we can to reach down and get a hold of whatever we're fastening ourselves to, and make sure that we get this particular ritual's understanding, because without it, when you start seeing the foundational stones laid for the tabernacle, those foundational stones cannot be laid. I'm talking about the third temple. Everybody understands? They're working diligently right now to make that happen. The foundational stones cannot be laid without the application of this ritual regarding the red heifer. Did you know that? And so, though they don't understand it from a spiritual perspective like they should have, they do understand that they cannot build the future temple, and they believe that the Messiah himself will come and begin to build that temple. And they also believe that it's the Messiah who will take these ashes of this tent red heifer and cleanse the grounds so they can begin to build. That's what they believe. And we kind of look at the John de Stein and say they don't know who Jesus is. Bless their heart. They're lost and undone in this world without him. If you'd asked me that 15 years ago, I probably would have agreed with you. Now I'm inclined to believe that they probably know more about Messiah than you and I do. Hello? We'll just leave that alone for a few moments. Let me share a quote with you. For without it, this ordinance of the red heifer, the divine service of the Holy Temple cannot be renewed. It comes from the Temple Mount Institute. How many of you are familiar with the Temple Mount? We've had the pleasure of being introduced and developing a relationship with some of the individuals that are, as we speak, restoring the temple priestly garments. They're actively and aggressively attempting to implement this ritual. Did you know that the red heifer, that there is literally a move in the United States, and of all places for it to have begun, it was in Mississippi. Yeah, can anything good come out of there? There was an effort to build a seed line to restore that red heifer. In Israel today, that seed is there. I'm convinced that they have a perfect red heifer. They've just not told the world about it. And you ask yourself, what does that mean to us? And it's a question that begs an answer, okay? And if this particular ordinance is so intriguing, it's so surrounded in mystery and mystique, and it's such an enigma, such a puzzle to us, and it begs us to dig it out for us to properly understand the temple service that's about to be reinstituted. And by the way, whether you can agree with that or not, it's going to happen. And there are a lot of individuals in the Christian community, in the Hebrew roots community, that say, oh my goodness, that third temple has to do with the Antichrist. And I would tell you to be very careful to speak against the restoration of that third temple. Why? Because the devil won't cast the devil out. Okay? Satan will not interrupt Satan. And so if that third temple is going to be built and they're going to reinstitute the third temple sacrifices, they can do that without the temple having to be completed. And we understand that when you see the morning and evening oblations stopped and the anti-Messiah goes in and sits himself on the holy places and calls for the known world to recognize him as the individual that has the right to that throne, why would he stop that if it was something that he had authored? Does that make sense to you? So be very careful. At least be careful to speak against it. Now, I want to ask you a question. In light of this little tidbit I've shared with you, do you think it's possible for Judah and the house of Ephraim, those of us that are dispersed, is it possible for us to truly understand this ritual? I think so. But it's going to require you to walk just a little bit further in this study than you probably have before. And I want to share another quote with you. And it's from the Temple Mount Institute. And it says, now listen to this carefully. The ashes of the red heifer rectifies humanity's basic flaw. If you want to know what really ails you as a species, it's this. And they say that this is the purpose of the red heifer. They don't understand all the inner workings of it. They just know that without the red heifer, you have an inherent flaw in you that keeps you from having access to him. And it's this ritual that restores you, restores mankind, and that flaw is the despair that arises simply because of the loss of the temple and divine presence that used to inhabit that temple. And now because of that flaw, that great distress upon us, because we simply understand there is no divine presence among us. There's no house for him. That's the purpose of this red heifer. Now you look at it and you say, oh my goodness, that's just not true. He's in here. Is he? He has to reside in a cleansed house. That's the purpose of this red heifer. If the house isn't cleansed, he will not occupy it. You believe that? Be careful. Because if you are in fact the temple of the living Yah and there is a flaw in you, he cannot, his own words, and you just agreed with it, he cannot inhabit a flawed tabernacle or temple. And so if there is a flaw in here, just like there was in that physical tabernacle, there has to be a ritual wherewith you can come and petition him for cleansing so that he can take up residence. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? Now, there's a lot of truth to what's said there. They understand that. But I believe it's a far greater truth than what you can see from this physical, natural demonstration. And you can't see it from the spiritual perspective unless you're diligent to search this thing out. And in fact, in the book of Hebrews, we're told that by faith we come to him, and those that are attempting to come to him must believe that he is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Did you hear that word, diligently? That doesn't mean every once in a while, which is our habit. Turn to your neighbor and tell them that's why you can't find it. Now, I know that probably did not apply to you, but it serves as a source of provocation to the individuals to you. Is that okay? Is it all right for you to be provoking your brother to love? Is that all right? Okay. This puzzle regarding the Chukat, the red heifer, has such bearing, I believe, on our life, the third temple construction, and the life of all Jews in particular, that the unraveling of it becomes a means, if you will, for us to understand our future deliverance. Without the understanding of this ritual, all the others will not matter. In fact, it's this ritual that was the focus, the central theme of Passover. If you don't understand this ritual, you really don't understand the resurrection of the one that you call your Savior and Messiah. Did you hear that? Pretty strong language, isn't it? John 8:32 says, you will know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. How many of you really know the truth? Who is the truth? What is the truth? John 17:17 says it's the truth that sanctifies us and sets us apart. It is truth. Do you want to look a little bit further? That word Chukat, seen there in verse 2 in chapter 19, is the plural form. 27:0 and Kuf Tav. It's translated as an ordinance or a statute, something that's prescribed, like a prescription for something that ails you. If you understand this ordinance, whatever ails you has a prescription for it, and it's found in the taking, the drinking, the absorbing of this ritual. Does that make sense? It goes on further to indicate to set limits or bounds. In other words, it's like you trying to be in the middle of two ditches, in the middle of the road, a ditch on either side of you. Back home, you stay between the ditches. It may not mean much to you, but it means keep it in the middle of the road. That's what this will help you to do. It'll keep you from going this way and then vacillating back and forth, because a double-minded man becomes unstable in a few of their ways. Oh, thank you. You have heard. You become unstable in all your ways. Listen to this. That word chukat indicates to engrave something. But I have a better definition, in my opinion, and it's in italics here in the note. It says to imitate whatever is said or contained in this statute, to imitate it in form. In other words, to become the embodiment of it. You literally become the shape or the form of whatever in that statute. The word spoken. It shapes things, forms things. Okay? If you look at that definition, it's kind of a broad definition, but to look at it in Hebrew language from the individual letter perspective, I believe will help you. The Hebrew letter chet indicates a fence, a boundary, something that's enclosed or encapsulated. You know, if you encapsulate something, it takes on the form of whatever encapsulates it. Does that make sense? How many of you have on a garment? Hopefully all of you. The garment takes on the form of what is inside of it. Have you ever read the verse that says, put on him? If he becomes a garment, then you should